everyone, and welcome to Money Moves with Justin and I, Mitch. We will be breaking down the catastrophe that is the Vikings cap issues and addressing some questions in the offseason as well later on. Justin, good to be here.
Definitely good to be here. We're going to be kind of, taking on the role of Rick Spielman here today, I feel like, and kind of giving the listeners out there a little view of what we might look like next year. So,
can we trade down?
I don't know. I think that's a good possibility.
I think we should trade down and get as much assets as possible, like Rick Spielman does every single year.
Yes, actually, we can dive right into it with a point on that. So trading, we can get a little more specific here. I think someone who the biggest name I think is a very possible trade away target for some of these picks. We could get a first round pick out of this guy, I think. And also has expressed some things that he might not necessarily want to be here, even though he's not upset with the Vikings, but Danielle Hunter. We could get some great value out of him, and he's not too attached to us.
No,
and
not
he's
at
been
all.
hurt. And right now he's the second highest cap hit on the Vikings for next year. Mm-hmm. So trading him away for picks would clear up a bunch of cap space while getting us some young first round value.
The only thing I would say to that is I don't know what his market value exactly is right now because he is coming off a neck injury that was kind of serious, and it could reoccur in the future. That surgery is something that has happened before with several other players, and it's kind of derailed their career. You can go left and right. I think I can't remember some tight end. Was it Greg Olsen? So he had some neck injury that he's also had several other key injuries that he really hasn't recovered from it. But I mean, it's Danielle Hunter. He's still young, and it sounds like taking this year off has been good for him.
Not like definitely. I think that's definitely the hard part about it. I think if I was opposing teams though, and if I was trying to trade him away, what I would really try to make clear is that he did actually have a chance at coming back this year. I mean, they kept delaying it for the longest time. And so taking the year off, he's going to be, I think, very healthy. He's the youngest player to reach however many sacks. I mean, he's a killer on the line. He's so good. And that is a good point that he is off a season-ending injury. But, I mean, I think teams are still willing to invest in him.
No, okay, so Danielle Hunter is a possibility. What would you say the percentages that he gets traded in the offseason?
That's a good question. I'd say right now, if we did nothing, if Spielman just went on vacation and didn't touch this team, we would be like $12 million in the red. So we need to get rid of cap space somewhere, and with him possibly wanting, if he tries to get a contract extension, it'd be a big one. And Kirk, if we can't get rid of Kirk, no one's going to pick him up with his contract, and we can't obviously cut him because that's a bunch of dead money there.
Yeah, maybe we can show the audience what we're looking at here.
Okay, so this is kind of our cap situation. If you can see this. Are you seeing this all right, Mitch?
Yeah.
So this is our cap situation with the Vikings, what it's going to look like in 2021. If right now it's set to if Rick Spielman just sits on his couch all day and does nothing.
And we must explain, because we're kind of like the people's voice here that don't really follow football as much as the ESPN analysis and people that really dig into financials in the game of football. But next year, the salary cap's actually going to drop because of COVID taking away from the revenue of this year. So it's all based on the revenue they make every year, and then the players union and the coaches and the owners, they come together and they kind of have a meeting every year about what the salary cap projections are going to be. And obviously, with COVID taking away the attendance and ticket sales and everything, it's gonna hurt the cap a little bit. So I think it's gonna drop down probably. I think it's like $8 million from last year. So that puts us even more crappy situation than we're already in. As you can see, the 12 million in
For
projected.
sure. And I'll run this by. We were just talking about possibly trading Daniil Hunter. If he were to be traded, I mean, granted, there might be a player, maybe it's just all picks, and if it is picks, then we wouldn't add to our cap until after the draft. But if we did trade him away, that already puts our cap in the positive.
Right. And we would be probably gaining. I couldn't see a team taking on, unless it's a team that's been saving up cap room for big free agency splashes, like the Jaguars, for example. They have a crap ton of picks coming up, but they also have, I think it's like $70 million in cap next season to set them up.
There are some teams with a lot of cap.
So maybe if that's a team that would trade just picks, can't see them trading the first overall pick, for example, the Jaguars.
Fair point.
But I think if we're going to trade him to probably, I'm guessing, outside the division opponent, it's going to have to include some sort of counter punch with another player, salary cap.
That is true. And
lineman, preferably.
That is true. And I mean, maybe it could be a big player that would bring that salary back down, but I'm thinking Rick's thinking picks as
we all know.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think if we did get a player with that, it wouldn't be too big. And I mean, there's a bunch of other moves that we can discuss further of other ways if we do happen to either keep Daniil or if we get a big player that won't really help our salary cap that much.
I'm putting the percentage on us trading Daniil probably at 20% right now. It's not looking very likely just because he's kind of a keystone, and I feel like his agent speaks out for him, but because he's kind of a quiet person. But he hasn't really expressed any issues before this offseason when he was hurt. So maybe a new thing that just popped up. Maybe it's kind of the sign to come. Because I feel if Daniil leaves, that's kind of a big piece of Zimmer's defense. And we can also talk about Zimmer later on in future episodes. But I see him leaving before Daniil. So
true point. I mean, we're talking about trading Daniil because he'd get a lot of value, but if we keep him, I mean, he's a great player, and even if we get picks out of him, it still would kind of suck to see him go.
Hard to get that value back from a great player.
So let's run down here. I want to get your.
I want to give you. If you said Daniil, I want to give you my player that I think will.
Sure,
not
right away
next year. I'm guaranteeing he will not be on the team next year, and that is Kyle Rudolph. I think we've seen Kyle Rudolph play his last game in purple. Sadly, I think it's going to have to be a cut situation.
You don't think he'll be traded?
I don't think his contract right now is worth his value. We have Conklin and Irv Smith that have really stepped up these past games, and I think it's it sucks because he's a for sure Vikings Ring of Honor recipient. He's going to be in the Ring of Honor someday. He's going to have his number retired above the rafters. But it's at the point where we've drafted young tight ends that are the future in the NFL. They are run after catch guys rather than tall possession tight ends, and that's kind of what the NFL is moving away from.
So let's see if we cut Kyle here with everything else staying the same. Helps a little bit. Still $7 million in the red.
I think that's for sure. If they can move him for a 7th round pick or a 6th round pick and get some value out of him, try to do that. But I don't see somebody taking on his contract. If you can go to the contract breakdown tab, it should show how many years he has left on his contract.
Kyle Rudolph.
Until 2024, he's with the team.
Yeah.
That's going to be hard to pick up that 4-year, $36 million.
Here's another thing. I mean, he is so rooted in the Minnesota Vikings and our culture and the community and such. Do you think they'd maybe do a restructure to lower
I
like
would
him take a pay cut so that he could stay with the team?
I would see it almost as if they're going to do that, if he doesn't restructure, I could see them cutting him and then do a release and sign
Yeah,
kind kind of
I could
thing.
see that as well.
But you still will be taking on that dead cap that he has with his guaranteed money left on his contract. So you could kind of tie that into the new contract as well. So you wouldn't be taking as much of a cap
For
hit.
sure. That could definitely be a very likely move, especially with younger talent coming up behind him that can do just better things than he can do at this point, really.
At most now he's just a 6'6" end zone threat.
Mm,
Ball for a 1 or 2 yard touchdown. So.
for sure. I kind of want to run down here. So I think there's not much to discuss with Kirk. I don't think we're going to get him traded. I don't think we're going to.
You have to sit in it for another year until it's next
Yeah.
at 2022. It doesn't hurt us as much to get rid of him.
For sure. So we're keeping Kirk. We already discussed Hunter. Do you think anything sort of transaction with Anthony Barr is going to go on here? I know I've heard some money talk about him recently because he has taken a pay cut in the past.
Yeah, with the salary cap that we have, I think he might be a necessity that we need to take out. I mean, he was injured this year. It's a shame that he was injured. Kind of had a good start to the year, I would say. He was surprising coming off last year's kind of lackluster performance, but I feel like the Vikings kind of screwed up keeping him because he's such a cap hit, and his value is he's more of an edge rusher than he is a cover linebacker, and he's getting we're kind of getting outside linebacker, middle tier edge rusher money for him.
For sure.
So I don't see the value going forward, especially if we start running. I mean, if we switch to a 3-4, he might be at more of a value. Capers can do that, but
Mm-hmm.
in the current formation we have, I feel like Eric Wilson's a better linebacker for our current setup.
Yeah, and Eric Wilson has been making tremendous strides this year, being in that starting position. He's looked, I think, pretty good.
And he won't cost you $15 million a year, so
exactly. But okay, any of these other more expensive guys? Adam Thielen's not going anywhere.
Riley Reef, possibly. I mean, his contract is very, very cuttable. It's only $2 million in dead cap, so.
That could be a big cut there, especially.
He had a really good year this year. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if he was playing for a job future. Like, yeah, I'm sure he was auditioning for 31 teams, but I feel like the Vikings could have moved him moved him before the trade deadline. They should have, because he's played his best football this year.
You say he had he had a great season, you're saying?
Yeah.
What do you think? And do you think he maybe talked up his value a little? What about a trade there?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So
and
he
if
had a really
we could trade him
before the deadline happened. But in the offseason, we definitely could, and that saves us so much money.
I mean, I feel like there would definitely be a player.
It's definitely going to be it's going to be trading for picks.
You think so?
The Hunter scenario, I think we're going to get picks for Riley Reef, and I wouldn't mind if a team like the Cowboys and Smith, their left tackle's kind of been up and down with injuries, and Connor Williams and their whole offensive line's kind of in shambles with injuries, and if we can trade him, because I definitely know he's kind of guy that would fit perfectly into that Cowboys locker room because he's very quiet and just to himself.
Sell high.
If we can move him in this offseason and we get that trade, we can work with what we have. We can move a guy like Oli Udoh that no one's been really talking about, but it's definitely a bright future for him.
For sure.
That left tackle spot, or even Ezra.
I think Ezra should move out there. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Move out to tackle, and then, because I mean, he doesn't work too well at guard, I don't think.
No.
Ezra Cleveland. Okay, so I'm going to keep Riley Reef at trade because that is he's played well. He's got some decent value, and especially if we get picks, we can even fill his spot with picks as well and see where that works.
Absolutely.
And it's, financially, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So going down this list here, there's some names that I don't see leaving at all? Do you see any people that are
Yeah,
still under
I see one
contract?
that's glaring in my eye right now, and it frustrates me
I
thinking
think
that
I know who you're talking about.
we pay him $5 million a year is ridiculous, and that's Shamar Stephen.
Mm-hmm.
He was kind of a contract that Spielman, I hate him for. It was kind of a rushed pick because I know he was a free agent last year going into the offseason. And he is kind of the Michael Pierce buffer. Once we heard Michael Pierce was gonna, take the year off, we kind of made it important, or kind of made it our target to keep somebody that's, kind of been raised in house and that
Mm-hmm.
that can fill that spot. Shamar Stephen was that guy. In hindsight, he wasn't. He sucks. So I think we're not going to get much trade value out of him. Maybe sixth round pick, but I think with his dead cap and his current, salary hit, I think it's going to be more reasonable for us to cut him.
I see that as well, especially, I mean, Michael Pierce coming back next year, he is a baller. And we're obviously going to keep him. I mean, it wouldn't make sense financially to cut him. I mean, we just got him. Like, he's staying.
Yeah.
So, I mean, our cap's starting to look better now. So we might, I mean,
now it's down to the nitty gritty, who we want to bring back and who do we see we can get more value in free agency from.
Yeah, and I mean, some of these guys who we've never heard of, like down here, might get cut, but that's not going to make too much of differences. And I'm sure a lot of these guys will be just as the offseason goes on, and we'll let Rick Spielman deal with that. But now we'll go over to some of these free agents that we got that are going to be free agents in the next year.
One other guy. Can I bring up one last guy?
Yeah,
One other guy that's not going to be on the team next year is Dan Bailey, so we can just go ahead and cut him.
I guess. What do you think we're going to do in replace of that then?
Tell you what we're going to do in a later episode when we do a draft mock.
Okay, and we'll kind of, I think in the future, we'll have some draft mocks in our affiliate podcast, the Land of 10,000 Tiers podcast, and we'll kind of mesh those mock drafts with our financials and see what we can do with that.
In the audience, you can definitely throw in the comments what people you think we should keep and cut. We definitely want to hear some feedback so we can come up with different scenarios and, put this puzzle piece together.
For sure. I want to bring up one more thing, and this one more person that I want to cut because I hate him, Drew Samia.
Oh yeah, he's gone. Yeah, I agree.
See ya. See ya, Drew.
He'll most likely not make the 53 next year, so he'll be.
See ya. That guy's gone. Anyway, I'm just gonna quick look at this. I mean, no names stand out to me.
Osborne's gone.
What's that?
KJ Osborne, not the guy.
I also think I was thinking, what do you think of Hercules Matafa? I feel like he's been trying to make the team for so long, and he's just barely hanging on by a thread.
If we're gonna get rid of Shamar Stephen, we might as well keep Hercules because he's at least,
and he's cheap, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what do you say? Should we move on to our free agents?
Yeah, and I made the spreadsheet, and some people down below are also in the free agency pool. There's a player team option, so that's why they're on this list.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay, so let's look at these free agents then. First one, I think Anthony Harris has had a terrible year compared to last year.
Yeah, it looked like this past game against the Saints, he was playing to stay healthy.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, Spielman and Zimmer are not going to want to keep him around just because of his attitude.
I agree. I mean, we almost lost him.
Put out the door this year with him, so.
We almost lost him this year, and he's expensive. And I mean, he was great last year, but he has not shown up to that this year at all.
6 interceptions last year. He led the league, or tied for the lead.
Yeah.
And this year he has 0. And the tackling woes and the blown coverages with him and Harrison Smith this year in the background or the secondary, it's not been good. So I don't think love the guy. We have that saying that we drafted him, we raised him to be the player he is. So we can at least put that on our shoulders. But I don't think we're on him.
He's had like 3 or 4 times the amount of missed tackles this year as he did last year. So
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to offer him, especially for this kind of contract that he could probably get somewhere else.
Yeah. And definitely we need to research what kind of contracts, these people are probably going to bring in.
Yeah.
Because I definitely want to, do a research on Eric Wilson because we need to bring him back.
Yeah, I have some of these are kind of set. You should probably be all know right now before we go through them, but
right.
we were kind of messing with this, and I agree with you. Eric Wilson, I mean, he's shown why he deserves a contract. And he's not like
Todd Davis I would bring back too.
Todd Davis, yeah, he has helped us a lot this year. I'm thinking if we don't do Anthony Harris, we'll probably take George Iloka.
I don't think so.
I think we're going to. We won't have any free safeties.
We will fill that spot in the draft like we always do. We always draft one free safety. One of the guys that
you don't think we need a more veteran guy also to help out a rookie who's going to start right away?
See, I don't think that safety is is a hard adjustment in the NFL as compared to cornerback. I feel like cornerback, you kind of need some tenured guys to, lead you through the thickets of things. But I think that safety is a little bit easier to pick up. I mean, Anthony Harris and I think, what was it, Dante Exum Jr. both had pretty good first seasons with the Minnesota Vikings, kind of filling in that free safety spot, strong safety spot when Harrison Smith was jumping around different positions. So one of the guys I think we could talk about later on in future episodes is Greg Eisworth from Iowa State. I think he might fill that role perfectly. He's kind of Hitman Junior-ish.
Yeah, that could be cool. Some other things. I mean, we've got 2 of our backup running backs and free agents here. Do you think we'll bring any of them back? Amir Abdullah and Mike Boone. Mike Boone was getting some touches last week.
Yeah, he scored a touchdown too. Boone, sadly, I think he's going to get a really good contract somewhere to be a backup.
Okay.
He's got explosiveness. I don't think he's going to want to take a low contract salary. So I think he's gone. I think we're not going to re-sign Jaleel Johnson. He really just never panned out for us.
Yeah. I think Dozier's
gone. I would not on him. I would show the door and kick him out.
What about Rashad Hill? I mean, he hasn't done terrible things.
He's kind of like our 6th man on the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if he's going to ask for more because I feel like he might be getting deals to start on some teams.
Yeah, he's kind of a hard one to say because I feel like if he is okay with that amount.
Yeah, it's hard to think what Rashad Hill's contract's going to be because the season's not over yet. But I feel like he'll be definitely getting some starting caliber salary offers.
Yeah, I could see it. That one's kind of comes down to him and what he's wanting, so it's hard to say there. So what about some other linemen like Brett Jones?
I think we should bring him back. I think his contracts be pretty inexpensive.
I agree. Guy I think we should keep just because I feel like he's cheap and he's just going to continue learning and he's young is Josh Metellus, safety. He's going to be a good backup, I think, behind Harrison.
Yeah, I think he has I think we have a team option on him because he was a rookie this year. So I think
you're right. We do.
I think we'll be able to bring him back.
For that 780.
Pension, I would say give him a year. I don't think he's earned enough to get an extension.
Who?
Drop Metellus.
Okay. What about we got Chad Beebe?
See, I think the Vikings will address the wide receiver in the draft or possibly the free agency. God help us that it's not. We don't bring in another person like Tajay Sharp.
Yeah,
awful pickup by us and
didn't catch a single ball.
Yeah, he caught 0 passes, and every time we threw to him, it was like 1 out of 5 games we threw a 60-yard bomb to him, and he just overran it or something. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, we don't need to do that. Maybe in the draft, I mean, there's a ton of middle level draft picks that I feel could really help us in the receiving room
Yeah.
and punt returning and kick returning. And
Yeah.
Jesse, obviously not the guy. Love him.
Another guy.
He's got a good dad that everyone talks
Yeah.
about, especially Joe Buck. So
Yeah. Joe Buck likes his dad, I think. Chris Jones. See ya.
yep, you bum, get out of here.
He's a bum. Yep. I don't even know who. Wait, is this the long snapper that we
That's
just
long
signed?
snapper. Yep.
That's right. And we cut cutting
Yeah.
just
That's
because he
ironic.
was better. So I guess Andrew De Paola was good at it or something. I don't know. Not much for me to say there, but
Conspiracy theory: Andrew Day Paula was the reason Dan Bailey was missing kicks. It was a new long snapper, man.
yeah,
The rotation of the ball came in a little bit different.
maybe. I mean, it was right around that time. I mean, it was a couple weeks after though, but who knows?
The other big guy, Fetty, Ona Bigbo.
Fetty?
I'm just gonna call him a Fetty. I don't think. I think he's gonna get. Sadly or happily, I think we're gonna avoid that bullet, and I think a team's gonna offer him a 4-year deal. He's gonna be paid middle tier defensive end. I
I
think
could see
the
it.
Zimmer and Patterson have kind of put this guy on a pedestal, give him the
Hmm.
chance to start this year, and he hasn't done anything. He's like 3.5 sacks.
Yeah.
And our current leader at the end of the year will be, unless DJ Wanham gets, I think, like 3.5 sacks next game.
Hmm.
I think we will end the year with Yannick Ngakoue as our leading sack man.
I think so.
So, I mean, Ifedi's kind of had his time to shine, and he hasn't done anything with it. So,
Yeah.
I don't see him as the guy opposite of Daniil next year.
Yeah. So just kind of a review here. I mean, we just made a few kind of bigger moves, but very likely moves that got us up to 13 million. I mean, obviously some of these lower guys are just not going to make the cut. They're not good enough and they'll add to it.
Right.
A lot of these free agents are guys that we picked up just because of how crippled our lineup was. I mean, we picked up some linemen because of Daniil Hunter and Pierce being out. We got some cornerbacks and a lot of these guys are because of how crippled our team was this year. And like Hardy Nickerson, we got him because Anthony Barr went out and Eric Kendricks was out. I don't think we'll re-sign him just because he was just this year to help us out. So I think overall, looking at it, making some of these cuts, even with signing some of these guys back, we'll have some, I mean, not great, but okay cap room to do something with.
And I just put a few on here, a couple corners that I feel like can be our cornerback one. And they're free agents in the offseason. We don't have to, we're not going to, this is not the episode to think about possible free agents because they could be extended in the offseason or towards the end of the year if, the Chargers or the Titans go pretty far in the playoffs. So who knows? Let us know in the comments what free agents you would like to see the Vikings sign, and we'll figure out a contract for them that's within reason, and we'll see if we can make it work with our current cap issues. And the cap's not 100% accurate because there are some player options that there's incentive-based things. If you make the Pro Bowl, I think Dalvin Cook made like $700,000 just for making the Pro Bowl this year, so that's going to go against the cap. So there's a few things that are not on this list, but this is their base salaries.
And maybe in our next episode or one of the future episodes, we can go over some notable free agents from other teams that could be possible acquisitions by the Vikings. But we'll save that for next time.
Yeah. And this is in the fans. This is in your hands for you to come up with these players. So take your time. Let us know in the comments, and we'll try to move forward and see what this is basically like a Madden rebuild we're doing right now with this the salary cap issue. So let us know, and we'll be the voice for you guys, and we'll send in to Spielman. We'll take his job actually.
Yes, we're gonna take over. He's gonna Ziggy's gonna see this. Ziggy Wilk's gonna see this, and we're gonna get that job.
All right. This has been Money Moves.
See you next time.